Alright, anyway, let's watch another episode of Disturbing Things, I guess, in the meantime. So, Disturbing Things I Found on the Internet, Volume 9, Lazy Masquerade. And if no one suggests videos, I guess I just watch this all day. Dun dun. Lazy Masquerade. You know what, I'll skip whatever intro there is. Let's go to the actual episode. Get Nightmare. An arcade, huh?
I'm sure for many of you, video games were a big part of your childhood, and I bet you can remember one or two old school classics that got you hooked on the medium. I grew up in the 90s playing Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot from the comfort of my own home, and occasionally still boot up the old consoles for a nostalgic night in with the boys. But if you were young in the mid-1980s, you'd likely have spent more time playing games in the arcade. Retro classics like Pac-Man,
I've never been in an arcade.
Donkey Kong, and who could forget 1985's Bally Senti Minigolf. I appreciate it's a bit of a deep cut, but allow me to set the scene. You're in
Did
a
someone
dull,
get murdered over this game? This game looks like a Golf with Friends and any golf game that I've seen, yeah.
empty arcade, staring into a bright, pixelated screen. And while rummaging through your pocket for a few coins, you see this.
What? Oh. Missing kids? In an arcade game they're putting that? Okay.
Following the example of milk cartons and PSAs, in the 1980s, the faces of missing children sometimes appeared on arcade machines.
It's kind of
The
smart
two most
actually.
famous examples are these boys, Taj Allen Merriman and Stephen Philip Curtis, who both featured on Bally Senti Minigolf. Their faces would appear as the machine cycled through different displays, from the title screen, to gameplay footage, to the high scores, and then, almost like a jump scare, to this. Though it does look like something ripped from an analog horror series, I can assure you that this static screen...
You know, I'm starting to see like a trend. I think Lazy Masquerade is he's just very scared of like missing poster. Like it's the third time in his videos that he's like, I understand like missing poster are a bit like, you know, unsettling, but you know, making a topic of the video like 3 times in different videos about it. I don't know. He's very scared of wanted poster. Interesting.
really was used, and the youth shown really had gone missing. Due to the digitization, the faces have an almost uncanny quality to them. That, and the sheer unexpectedness of seeing a missing persons poster pop up on your arcade machine, was enough to burn these photos into many developing brains.
But then just keep
After
playing the
all,
game.
the vast majority of people who came
you
across
forget?
these images were kids themselves.
Yeah.
Over on the Atari Age forum, user Thunderfist was able to shed some light on what became
they
of
ever
one of these
found them?
boys. Years ago, I remember seeing a mini-golf arcade game in a gas station near me. I wasn't able to play it, but I remember watching the demo and seeing the screen with 2 missing boys pop up. That was the only time I'd seen that done in an arcade game, although I have read suggestions that other Bally Senti games, perhaps Give Me a Break being one of them, also did this. I always wondered what became of the 2 boys in minigolf, and
Right.
decided to look into their
It is a
cases.
mystery, yeah. What they ever found them.
Downloading and playing set 2 of minigolf in MAME, I took a screenshot of that particular screen and took down the information on the 2 boys. Taj Allen Merriman's fate was easily found.
Oh.
It seems his was a family abduction, and he was found safe around July 12th, 1985 in Georgia. That was the date the mother was arrested for the abduction, according to the Beaver County Times.
Okay.
I haven't been able to find anything on the other boy though.
And there's a mystery is
Searching
born.
through old online resources, it does seem that Taj was found. But, as Thunderfist stated in his post, there's no information online about Stephen. Several other forum users were able to locate a Stephen P. Curtis, living close to Hoquiam, where the poster said he had last been seen, but that finding's far from official. It's not like Stephen Curtis is a particularly unique name after all. As
Yes,
far
so,
as I'm
yeah.
concerned, Stephen's whereabouts and well-being remain inconclusive. Taj and Stephen weren't the only lost children to appear in these chilling arcade ads though. Other grainy faces that appeared on Bally Senti cabinets included Melinda Marie Smith, April Rose Yates, Daniel Godfrey Owens, Charles Brandon Morris, and likely numerous others that
I wonder how that works though, because, you know, this is the 80s, this is arcade machine, it's not like easy to update stuff, right? So like, how does that work? Is it the game is being made and the specific arcade machine is being made, and it has to be like something that they put in before even shipping the machine or something? So then it's not like you can ever like remove it, update it, or like, you know, add some new one, right? I don't know. Like, was there a way to add some new missing poster? It's interesting. I wonder how that worked.
Haven't been brought up on the internet yet. And of all of them, Taj is the only one confirmed to have been found. The implementation of these digitized photos was an experiment by Senti Technologies to see whether such a strategy could aid police investigations. But, as you've heard, the experiment's success was limited, and the practice didn't last.
Yeah.
Fellow YouTuber Pixels After Dark was able to find a playable ROM of the minigolf arcade game online and demonstrated how the feature worked. The faces of these lost sprogs didn't appear by default, but on the dip switch menu, the machine's owner would have been able to activate the Display Kids option, and could manually choose to mark them as located or not.
Oh, so there was such option. Interesting. But again, then that kind of implies that, yeah, it's part of the coding of it, so there was literally no way to update, so it's something that was like, whenever like the arcade machine was being ready to ship out, they get like the most recent you know, kid missing poster, they put it in, and that's about it. So I guess that's, you know, it's still something, you know. The more eyes seeing missing poster, the better it is, right? But it's a weird system, I don't know. Seems a bit unpractical in some way, right?
Eerily, as far as we know, that located feature was only ever used for one of the missing youngsters, Taj. As for the others, well, in Pixels After Dark's words, we can only hope that they got the good ending too.
Right.
Many of these old Borley Senti arcade cabinets still exist today, in private collections, vintage bars, and retro arcades.
Oh, it was
and in their code hide the relics of a failed experiment. The only known photos of lost children, immortalized in a video game. Their faces frozen in time. Their fates a mystery. Their stories untold.
Yeah. And isn't it the case too, like, especially these days, I think, in a lot of like cheaper indie few person project, you know, that people just will use some real like wanted poster or missing poster, you know, as like props of the environment and stuff like that. So yeah, I always wonder, like, whenever you see something like that, you wonder what they found. It's kind of weird that, you know, outside of that one right there, like, you know, there's no like no confirmation for sure, you know, if people have been found or not. Yeah, there should be like some kind of police database where they list whether people have been found or not with any missing poster being made. I don't know.
Depending on how you look at it, social media could be considered a blessing or a curse.
Why not both?
So most of us use it to connect with others, share information, and generally kill a few spare minutes. Not everyone engages with it that way. For the lonely, it's a cold comfort. For the terminally online, an addiction. And for the most depraved among
That's definitely not me right now begging for you guys to suggest some videos, because I feel alone as no one is watching the streams recently.
us.
That's definitely not me.
Over 2 months in 2017, 8 women, aged between 15 and 26, disappeared from various prefectures in and around Tokyo, Japan. And they all had something in common. Before vanishing, they'd all been in contact with a mysterious Twitter account. One ominously named Hanging Pro.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to his friends and neighbors, Takahiro Shiraishi wasn't the polite, gentle, and docile young man that he portrayed himself to be. Though outwardly he acted the right way, said the right things, and stayed out of trouble, in reality he was a hollow shell of a human being, one incapable of empathy. He had friends, he tried hard at school, he played sports and indulged in hobbies, but there was nothing that truly interested him. Well, aside from one thing.
Murder.
At some point in his youth, he had developed a morbid fascination with ropes. His sister had once walked into his bedroom when they were young and found Takahiro and a friend playing the choking game, tugging on makeshift nooses that they had wrapped around each other's necks till they were blue in the face. It was an interest that he had carried with him into adulthood. An average student with average grades.
As is always said, I mean, so much of people going wrong start from childhood.
Takahiro would go on to graduate from high school, but opted not to enroll at university. Instead, he relocated to Tokyo and got a job in Shinjuku's Kabukicho, a seedy entertainment district notorious for its red lights.
Entrance.
His job there was simple.
Yakuza.
To lure attractive young women into certain bars and convince them to become escorts. It was a job that required charm rather than brainpower. But there was just one problem with that. Takahiro was scared of women. Their mere presence made him sweat and stutter. As such, he found a workaround. Rather than approaching women face to face like most scouts, he instead scoured social media for the beautiful unemployed and told them how much money they could make doing so-called night work. It was a strategy that proved surprisingly effective. Even among the other workers in Kabukicho, though, Takahiro had developed a reputation and earned himself the nickname the Creepy Scout. But they didn't just call him creepy because of how he talked or the way he acted, but also because of his eyes. More specifically, because of his vacant, lifeless stare. Those who spoke with him said that whenever they looked into Takahiro's eyes, it was like he wasn't there. Well, everyone soon learned that Takahiro's eyes weren't the creepiest thing about him. His chat history confirmed that he had been trying to lure high schoolers into becoming escorts. People began posting his picture online, along with the caption, "Watch out for this guy," which in turn led to Takahiro being arrested and given a 14-month suspended sentence in 2017.
And yet,
now jobless, Takahiro relocated to nearby Zama, where he rented a squalid one-room apartment for $250 a month. Broke, loveless, and isolated, he chose not to seek out new employment. Instead, he continued to spend most of his time online, scouting out young women. This time, for an altogether different purpose.
Yeah, I can imagine what's
Using
going.
a myriad of Twitter accounts, including the aforementioned Hanging Pro, Takahiro targeted young, lonely females that he came across on the internet, sometimes posing as a guru skilled at helping other people end their own existence, other times playing the part of a miserable man looking for someone to end himself with. His goal, at first, was to find a sugar mama, someone who could not only satisfy him carnally, but who could support him financially.
Okay.
And given how useless he was at talking with women, he figured that he'd try and play the game of love on easy mode. And by manipulating the lonely, he figured he'd stand a better chance at winning.
Pure psychopath
The
and
first person to agree
sociopath,
to meet with
whatever it is.
Takahiro was 21-year-old Mizuki Miura.
I think I always use sociopath and psychopath interchangeably and also probably in the wrong context. I always forget exactly which one is what.
A company employee from Atsugi. The pair met in person several times to discuss their mutual unhappiness. According to their chat history, Takahiro offered to let Mizuki live with him in exchange for a 500,000 yen down payment on rent. She accepted and moved in with him that August.
That's how many years, like he's paying $250 a month, I mean. Damn.
To begin with, their cohabitation went smoothly. But when Mizuki began getting close to another guy named Shogun Nishinaka, she suddenly disappeared and became unreachable by both phone and social media. The same evening that Mizuki sent her final ever message, an anonymous post appeared on the message board, 2chan. Urgent.
So it's 2chan.
Have to get rid of 50 kilograms of meat. Due to circumstances, I've got 50 kilograms of meat. But what can I do to get rid of it? I'm not a big meat eater, so I want to dispose of it as soon as possible.
Throw it in the trash, people are gonna see.
After not hearing from Mizuki in 5 days, her new male friend, Shogo, went to Takehiro's apartment looking for her. And after stepping inside, he too was never heard from again.
Damn.
Jealous that Mizuki was falling for this Shogo guy, Takahiro confronted her on August 23rd. When Mizuki said that she didn't have any romantic feelings for Takahiro and that she saw him as more of a friend, the incel snapped. In a blind rage, he incapacitated her, SA'd her, and, not wanting her to go to the authorities, strangled the life out of her. And when Shogo came sniffing around, he butchered him. It was too late to turn back now.
No strangling
so,
or
Takahiro
hanging?
decided that if women wouldn't give him what he wanted, he'd take it. On the same Twitter accounts, Takahiro used carefully thought out hashtags to fish for potential targets. preying on the desperate and downtrodden.
Man.
And given how many people in Japan...
You always think in cases like this, like, you know, the guy already went to prison for, like, you know, something. And when you look at cases like this, and you're like, obviously, you know, it was not murdering people for what he went to prison, but you almost think, yeah, it's fucked up that he went to prison, and yet, you know, he was like literally faced with the justice system and everything, and they could not tell that he was like that. And every time, yeah, there's a case like that of, you know, someone went to prison and still came back out to do horrible shit, you know, it's like, it feels useless in a sense. I don't know. Yeah, it's fucked.
And are overworked and isolated. It wasn't long before he started getting bites.
Of course.
His Twitter bio read, "I want to help people who are really in pain. Please DM me anytime." Through those DMs, Takehiro would build a rapport with those who contacted him. He would slowly break them down and earn their trust by promising to end his own existence alongside them.
Huh.
He'd also tell them not to discuss their private chats with anyone, of course. That was a deal breaker. Numerous other people are known to have vanished after agreeing to meet with Takehiro. Kureha Ishihara, a high school freshman.
You know, I was just thinking, like, there was a music video with, like, this ID by a band called Polka Dot Stingray, a Japanese band. And it's about, like, you know, murder, suicide, but also someone is faking it to actually kill someone or something. I wonder if it's about this case or if it's just about similar case. I forget the name of the song.
A senior.
Polka Dot Stingray is a band.
A university student. Kazumi Maruyama, a convenience store worker. Akari Suda, a prospective manga artist. And Totomi Fujima, a mother and housewife. After luring his victims back to his house of horrors, Takehiro would tranquilize them, rob them, essay them, and snuff them out using a piece of rope.
Okay, so he still does that.
And tried to fight back, but were ultimately unable to overpower him. He dragged each of their bodies into his bathroom, where he sliced them into pieces using kitchen blades, a handsaw, woodwork tools, and a pair of scissors. Most of their meat, as he called it, was hacked off and thrown out with his other garbage.
Just like that,
He stored the rest of their remains inside picnic coolers and wooden crates, which he kept inside his flat.
What the fuck?
Following advice which he had allegedly received on 2chan, Takehiro topped the coolers with cat litter to help mask any foul odors. But what his neighbors thought was the smell of faulty drains was actually the pungent stench of death. Takehiro's ninth and final victim was Aiko Tamura, who disappeared on October 23rd. After not hearing from her for several days, her brother became concerned about Aiko's whereabouts. After gaining access to her Twitter account, he discovered the unsettling messages that Takehiro had been sending her. The brother contacted another woman that Takehiro had messaged, one who had met with him in person. This woman agreed to act as bait in a sting operation. Using her Twitter account, they contacted Takehiro and arranged to meet with him at a nearby station. On Halloween night, 2017, the two met and walked back to his apartment. Upon their arrival, undercover officers stormed the residence and demanded to know where Aiko was. Takehiro pointed to one of the small boxes that filled the living space and coldly stated, "She's in there." The coolers and crates were filled with the heads, arms, and legs of Takehiro's 9 victims, with most of their meat scraped off. A combination of DNA testing, CCTV...
You know, sometimes like this period where I think I've kind of like reached a point where, you know, you've seen so many true crime stories and serial killers and fucked up stories that, you know, it like, you're just used to it and it doesn't bother you, but then there's still some like that, I don't know. It depends on, I guess, how, you know, if I'm really depressed, like, it's just more shit, so it feels like whatever, but if I'm in, like, a better, like, mental state, it's like, yeah, I realize how fucked up it is, and it's actually much more disturbing than in other times. I mean, as always, yeah, like, there's always going to be fucked up people, there's always going to be murder, but, you know, it's sad that we still aren't able to prevent that many, right? Like, actual serial killings like this. Man.
evidence and phone data helped the investigators uncover the identities of all 9 victims. Takahiro had taken their lives at a rate of more than 1 per week, and he had no intention of stopping. In fact, he had already met with 4 other women who he was working on, including the decoy who had played a role in the sting. For obvious reasons, the media dubbed Takahiro the Twitter killer. In court, Takahiro didn't deny responsibility for the slayings, and stated, "I'm sorry for having killed some of my victims, the ones with whom I spent a lot of time, and I'd like to apologize to their families.
Fuck off.
For the others, I don't really feel a deep sense of regret. If I hadn't been caught, I would regret nothing."
Well, okay, at least he's honest with that.
He would have continued his spree forever.
Of
Or
course.
at least until he found a woman who would support him financially. His defense tried to spin a different narrative, saying that Takahiro was actually a good Samaritan, one who only wanted to help desperate women pass on with dignity. But Takahiro himself laughed at the absurdity of that story, and admitted, "Not a single one of my victims consented." In response, Judge Naokuni Yano said that Mr. Shirashi had not only taken 9 lives,
Death penalty, I
but
assume.
quote, trampled on the dignity of the dead. And on December 15th, 2020, he sentenced the 30-year-old to death.
Good.
Even though Takahiro is currently behind bars, he is reportedly still looking for a wife, one who he hopes will bring him things from the outside.
And frankly, knowing people, he might find one. I mean, how many times have we heard like serial killer stories, still finding a wife, or on the other hand, like an husband behind bars? Like, it's crazy to me that it even happens. Yeah, fucking disgusting story, insanely sad. All these people just so vulnerable, you know? So looking for someone to find human like contact, that they all fall for the trap of a freaking piece of shit. So sad.
"I know many women are irrationally attracted to serial killers," he told an interviewer. "A few have already been in touch."
Of course.
Takahiro better make it a fall.
You know what I'm gonna say? Like, any people like that, woman or man, who go after some serial killer in prison, they should also go to prison or to a mental hospital. I don't know. Like, that should instantly be a sign of, you know, there's something very wrong with them and they should not be out in public. Am I crazy? Like, is that not fair? Like, anyone showing that kind of interest in a serial killer to the point of wanting a relationship with someone behind bars that's a serial killer, come on. You are way too far gone to remain in normal society.
Courtship, though. After all, he may not have much time left to enjoy married life. In Japan, the date of an inmate's execution is kept secret, even from the convicted and their family, and they're only notified on the morning that they're set to perish.
That's good.
As such, Takahiro will wake up every morning, however many he has left, wondering if that might be...
Though sometimes I'm saying that's good, but, you know, I'm not fully for the death penalty, simply because he might deserve it, but there's often a lot of people who don't. Like recently in the US, there was like a bunch of cases, right, of some guys who were convicted in 70s, 80s, or 90s of something, and in the death row for like decades. But recently, with like some new found evidence, it's, you know, almost sure that it wasn't them, and yet, yeah, the death penalty wasn't stopped for some bullshit. So again, yeah, like, some people definitely deserve it, but I think for like the people who don't, it's much better to not have death penalty, to give them a chance to eventually maybe get out if they were actually innocent. I don't know. That's how I look at it. Though obviously, like, for someone like this, it's so easy to, yeah, want him to, like, not even just a nice death penalty, like he deserves to be tortured to death or something. But, you know, if you look at it logically overall, for all the innocents that may also be killed, I think it's better to just, you know, life in prison, and that's about it.
The day he loses his life. And when he does,
I don't know.
It will, fittingly, be at the end of a rope.
That's how they do it. And rest in peace to all. So fucking sad. Really makes you lose trust in all of humanity, this kind of videos.
During your adventures on the internet, you may have come across the term frogging.
Frogging, I think I've
For
heard
those
the
of you
name.
who haven't, frogging, as described by dictionary.com,
Oh,
is the act of secretly
yes.
living in another person's home without their knowledge or permission.
Hell no.
It's a concept that gets used a lot in no-sleep stories and creepypastas. But the thing is, frogging is far from a mere urban myth.
Yeah, I talked about it
There have
before.
been hundreds of documented cases of unwanted visitors living in someone's loft.
Yeah, I've seen videos like this. It's the kind of thing that makes you extremely like paranoid of your own place. Yeah, like where could someone be
hiding inside their walls, or even sleeping under their bed. The term derives from the frog's modus operandi, how they hop from pad to pad, either searching for a place to live, or just chasing a sick thrill. Typically, they avoid confrontation, only going so far as to steal the homeowner's food, toiletries, and privacy. But not all frogs are made equal.
Yeah.
Some aren't content living in the shadows forever. Some make the leap into even more depraved acts.
I believe it.
The year was 2019, and Brittany and James Campbell were a pair of military newlyweds stationed in Hawaii. With orders to stay on Oahu for the next 2 years, they picked out a family home where they could raise their 2 sons in peace, a modest 2-story house located on a safe Honolulu cul-de-sac. In mid-September that same year, the Campbells left for a week's vacation to the US mainland. Despite living in an island paradise, the couple were extremely eager to get away for a while, and not just to visit relatives. Unfortunately, Hawaii wasn't the fairy tale that they hoped it would be. Just a few months prior, they'd found their garage in a bad state. Someone had snuck inside, opened up all of their storage boxes, and arranged their contents into strange piles. At first, they believed that they had been robbed, but soon realized that no valuables were missing. A thorough search of the rest of the house turned up no further clues, so the Campbells chalked this incident up to some local youths messing around and did their best to forget about it. But
I wouldn't forget about it.
But feel that something was off. On multiple nights in the weeks leading up to their trip, she had been awoken by what she thought was the sound of doors slamming, floorboards creaking, and boxes being rummaged through. Every time she went to investigate the source of the noise, she found nothing, but they happened so frequently that they kept her perpetually on edge. Brittany raised her concerns with her husband James, and though he originally believed that she was just being paranoid, he too recalled several weird occurrences from recent months. He had found the front door mysteriously unlocked, personal effects out of place, and the computer's webcam switched on when nobody had been using it.
So whoever is frogging is literally trying to scare them, basically?
Worryingly, while home alone one afternoon, James had been playing the piano when he suddenly got a strange feeling. He turned to see the silhouette of a man staring at him through the window, his face obscured by a thin curtain.
Oh god.
The figure ran off, and James convinced himself that the man was just a neighbor listening to him play. Still, in combination with all of
convince yourself of
the other strange happenings, the couple began to feel like they were losing their minds. Thus, they booked their holiday to the mainland. A week away, they thought, would do wonders for their well-being. When the family returned to their home on September 20th, they noticed something suspicious in their front yard. James's bike. Certain that he had left it locked away inside the garage, James told his family to wait in the car while he went inside to investigate.
What did they
But when
do?
he tried to open the front door, he could feel something, or someone, pulling against him on the other side.
Whoa.
James managed to pry the door open enough to make a gap. He peered through it, and locked eyes with a man he had never met. One who calmly, yet forcefully stated, "This is not your house." James managed to force his way into his own home, and found that this 20-something-year-old stranger was wearing his clothes. With a sledgehammer in hand, James managed to restrain the intruder, while Brittany contacted the authorities.
Damn.
What they later found inside the home was haunting. Almost every object in every room had been rearranged, with pots and pans piled in neat stacks, James's musical gear laid out in the living room, and their son's bedroom meticulously cleaned. Knives had been carefully placed atop James and Brittany's bed, laid out like tools on a surgeon's operating table.
Okay.
But the most disturbing discoveries were found on the family's laptop. The frog had left them a video using the webcam. In the footage, he performed a deranged parody of a makeup tutorial. More concerning, however, was a digital diary that the frog had been keeping.
It's the classic of like, yeah, some people just, they are absolutely insane, but they look normal. You wouldn't think, you know? Which, as always, is a reminder to, yeah, just be wary of people, no matter how friendly or normal they might seem. I don't know. And on the other hand, not also jump on conclusion if someone seems kind of weird. It doesn't always mean it, because often like the people who seem weird are actually, you know, more normal, and it's the people who seem too normal that aren't normal.
One which contained notes about each family member, detailing their movements and private conversations, confirming that the man truly had been living inside their home for several months, watching them.
That's
in
insane.
A separate file, they found an extremely long document titled The Omnivore Trials, a rehabilitation of rat-like people. In what can only be described as a deranged manifesto, the frog explained his plan to turn the Campbell family from omnivores into Ezekiels. This included transplanting their hands and removing certain unnecessary organs. Today's trial consisted of trying to use makeup for cosmetic changes. It kind of failed, but I believe there will be progress. It's hard to figure out what to do because I still haven't had a real connection with the consultant. I want to get closer, but I guess we both have a fear of something that we are. I'm easily freaked out by human forms, and they believe I'm a narcissistic human, in a way. I just want them to look perfect. I want them to feel beautiful. I believe that even the way they are is possibly one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. But I'm a weird guy, so I guess that's why. But the trials will be completed.
Absolute madness.
We will all have a base home where we can go if needed. And eventually, we'll have other homes and places that we can go to enjoy our lives.
What is he even saying? I don't... What?
The frog used that same laptop to research surgery utensils for sale, and it googled how to perform certain operations. Files of...
You know, there's like different level to this. I already talked about before, like, yeah, this idea of frogging, someone living inside your house and you don't know for a long time is already scary, right? But, you know, sometimes it's literally just someone trying to live there or survive there. So while it is fucking scary, at least you can tell yourself that they had no intention against you. They were just literally trying to remain hidden and never be found out or something. It's still fucked up and you still would never be safe after that, feel safe after that. But imagine, yeah, this case, like, it's not just someone was living inside the house with you, it's someone who literally was planning to do some horrible shit to you. An absolute insane person who was planning to cut you in some way to some mad ritual they were trying to do. That's like another level of like paranoia you're gonna have after that. I mean, how can you ever like live safely after that? Like fucking hell, I can't even imagine. Absolute madness.
Were found inside the living room, and it's believed the frog had gathered these to sedate the family members in preparation for their transformations. A message on James's calendar simply read, "Your rehabilitation starts today. Do as I did. Choose a house. Clean it. Set up all devices." The term Ezekiel's made a little more sense when the authorities arrived to arrest the frog. He was 23-year-old Ezekiel Zayas, and he'd been living in the crawl space above the Campbell's second-floor bathroom. He wanted to play doctor on us, recalled Brittany. He wrote about how he could make us into perfect people. Had the Campbell family not gone on vacation when they did, they may well have woken up one night to find themselves in a nightmare scenario. One that doesn't bear thinking about.
Right.
After his arrest, Ezekiel faced burglary charges and was subsequently released under supervision. However, he was taken into custody again in 2020, this time for vandalizing a Buddhist temple. While incarcerated, Ezekiel demonstrated his willingness to kill by beating and stomping on the head of his 62-year-old cellmate, Vance Grace. This attack was completely unprovoked, and guards were unable to stop him from slaying Vance due to faulty locks on their cell door.
I mean, it's insane that they even let him out in the first place. I mean, you could say he didn't actually attack anyone. He was writing about his plans and he was living in someone's house, so, you know. Yeah, but like, this is the most obviously insane person. How do you release someone like that? How do you not just send him to a mental hospital and lock him for life?
Ezekiel pled guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter and was sentenced to a total of 40 years.
Why not life?
The Campbells have since left Hawaii and moved into a new home on the mainland. Though, given what they went through, I wonder if they'll ever really feel at home again.
No way. Like, I'm trying to think if that happened to me, yeah, like, how would I ever feel safe again. What kind of house would make sense? Like, I have no freaking clue. I mean, like, I think a lot of people already are scared of like, any noise in the house, like any creak, any door movement, or any weird noise. Like, sometimes, it's always kind of like catch your attention and you're like, what is that? What is that? So, can you imagine how much more extreme they would feel in that way? Like, any single noise would probably like, you know, make their heartbeat go like to the max and just, it would be an insane way to live. I don't know how you would ever feel all right again, even with time passing. I don't know. Like frogging is, I don't know. Like some people doing it again, I understand they're often homeless and this is literally just a way to survive for them. Like they have a place to stay, they can steal some food and just remain done. Um, but man, like it's probably like one of the scariest thing. I can't imagine. Yeah, yeah. And I would say like in a lot of cases, it's never realized, right? So I don't know how common it is. If it's thousands or dozens, thousand people that are doing this, but it's insane. Yeah, absolutely terrifying. This is nightmare fuel to the max.